Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the game. We're glad to have you here. Hopefully you found your seats all right. And make sure you know where the exits are if we ever need to evacuate the stadium. So we're going to play some ball today. And as well, first of all, my name is Wade Matthews, the Be Ready Utah manager and on the UEMA board of directors this year. My privilege to introduce our presenters today. Jeff Mulcahy, emergency manager from Sandy City, and Aaron Sainsbury, the emergency and safety manager from South Jordan. Let's give them a big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I want to thank you guys for coming out. We've got a lot of fun activities planned. We've got baseball field set up right up here. We're going to use the cards that I passed out and hopefully get everybody involved. But first off, we're going to start with a couple clips. As everybody know, remember the Loma Prieta earthquake of 1989? Who wasn't alive?
I was two.
Perfect. We're going to go ahead and start off with 2 short clips.
In the southeastern corner. Of this city, for the first time in 27 years, a World Series game will be played in Candlestick Park. The Battle of the Bay continues. Game 3 of the 1989 World Series, the Oakland Athletics against the San Francisco Giants. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Game 3. It's been dominant Oakland pitching, of course, in the first 2 games, so Roger Craig has made some changes in the Giants lineup. Ken Oberkfell, the great pinch hitter, will start at third base. Matt Williams moves from third base to shortstop. Jose Uribe is on the bench. Pat Sheridan takes over for Candy Maldonado in right field. Now, the Giants, of course, are faced with a formidable task, having to win 4 or 5, in essence, to win the world title. It has become less uncommon, though, in recent years for teams to overcome a 2-love deficit. Most recently, it was done by the New York Mets in 1986 against the Boston Red Sox, and it was done the year before as well in 1985 by Kansas City against St. Louis. So the Giants tonight will be sending Don Robinson to the mound, and for Oakland, it will be Bob Welch, and there's no designated hitter in effect in the National League Park. Let me turn now to Tim McCarver. You know, Tim, we talked in Game 1, the final score was 5-0, but there was a key early play involving Terry Kennedy dropping a throw from Will Clark at the plate. We go back to Game 2, the score was 5-1, but there were 2 key plays early in that one as well.
Well, you don't often think of key plays in a 5-1 ball game, but let's go back to the top of the 3rd inning. Will Clark, the batter. The Giants have not had the lead in these 2 games. A 3-2 count, a split finger fastball by Mike Moore, pounced on by Terry Steinbach, the Oakland catcher. But look at the tough throw that he had to complete the play with Brett Butler running between him and Clark. Flash forward to the bottom of the 4th inning. Dave Parker, barely by inches, just misses a home run. Candy Maldonado with the hesitation, allowing Jose Canseco to score, and he fails to get Dave Parker at second base. So the Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Before we play the next clip, is there anybody that doesn't have a player card? Jared, who are you? Jared the Big Disaster. Will you pass those out to some of those folks? That'd be awesome.
Hands up, hands up, hands up.
Hands up, yep.
Hands up.
Yeah, we need a lot of disaster here.
Baseball fans in the fall of 1989 got to witness a huge hit. And I'm not talking about a triple with the bases loaded. It was October 17th, just half an hour before Game 3 of the World Series was set to begin in San Francisco's Candlestick Park. The ground began to move. The television feed flickered, then went out. Then all hell broke loose. When the broadcast resumed several minutes later, the announcers were visibly and literally shaken. The Bay Area just experienced a massive earthquake. Geologists estimate it had a magnitude of 6.9. It caused landslides, walls and buildings collapsed, rubble fell, fires started. The quake's epicenter was in the Santa Cruz Mountains, near Loma Prieta Peak, some 60 miles from San Francisco. Sometimes called the Loma Prieta or San Francisco-Oakland earthquake, it's also referred to as the World Series earthquake. It was the first major earthquake in the United States to be broadcast live on TV. The Bay Area hadn't seen a seismic event like that since the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. That earlier quake, an estimated 8.3 on the Richter scale, nearly destroyed the city. It caused massive fires and killed over 3,000 people. Compared to that, 1989 was a hiccup, but a devastating one nonetheless. Over 60 people were killed and several thousand were injured. 42 of those fatalities happened on the Cypress Street Viaduct on the Nimitz Freeway in Oakland. The upper level of the road collapsed, crushing cars below. It's also estimated that the quake caused over $6 billion in damage. Despite all of this destruction, it could have been much worse. And Bay Area residents may have our national pastime to thank for saving their lives. You see, both teams in the World Series, the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants, were from the Bay Area. No place in the country was more invested in the game. The ball game was set to start at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Coast time. That's usually rush hour. But because of the series, many Bay Area baseball fans were already settled in to watch the game and cheer on their teams. That meant they weren't out in the streets or on the roads when the quake hit just after 5 p.m. Thanks, baseball. The World Series finally resumed 10 days later, on October 27th. Several first responders were honored before the game and helped throw out the first pitch. By the way, the Oakland A's swept the series in 4 games, thanks to 2 commanding starts by pitcher Dave Stewart and strong offensive performances from Ricky Henderson, Carney Lansford, Dave Henderson, and Jose Canseco. The A's broke with tradition by not celebrating their win with champagne, a solemn nod to those who'd been hurt or killed in the quake.
Getting elected president is an expensive business. Kemp?
So at the time, I was fairly young, about 13 years old when that occurred. But I do remember turning the news radio or the news on, seeing the freeways down on top of each other. Pretty wild. I was also in 1980. I was up in Washington when Mount St. Helens erupted. So I haven't lived through, but I've seen a few disasters. But that's kind of what caught my interest in emergency management. I moved over from Public Works, where I was in Public Works for about 17 years. But what our plans are today are to talk a little bit about the differences, but also kind of talk about the similarities of baseball versus emergency management. As you all know, in the spring baseball starts off. There's spring training. Hopefully everybody knows that. It's America's pastime. Preparedness and training is similar to spring training. Make sure, as far as exercises, when we practice, we practice like we play, and we play like we practice. That's why training and exercise is extremely important. Some of the other similarities, team selection, know your players. If you look around the room right now, hopefully everybody knows each other. If you don't, it's a good opportunity to network, good opportunity to get to know who you have on your team. So team selection is extremely important. Position assignment, batting order, pitching order. So up here we have a batting order. Some of you are going to come up to bat. Others are going to be in the field, either in the infield or in the outfield. We are going to have people come up and play ball. But know your role. Know your role as an emergency manager. We talked about it a little bit today in some of the earlier presentations. And then also, what about your staff? Does your staff or other employees of your organization, do they know what their role is? That's important. Those are some of the things that you do in baseball, also in emergency management. Physical fitness. Physical fitness is an important part of baseball. And with physical fitness, if you look at it from an emergency management standpoint, it's important to have tools and resources and use the tools and resources that are provided and make sure they're the right tools. If we have somebody come up to bat and we give them the option to use maybe a pencil or an actual bat, what's the right tool? In Public Works, we used to have folks go out in the field and dig up water leaks. Sometimes they would go out with a vac truck and it's a hydro excavator. Sometimes they'll go out with a little mini excavator. And really, in actuality, a bigger track hoe or a backhoe might be the right tool. No sense on digging up a water leak with a spoon. Communication is important. I learned when I moved over from Public Works that it's really tough. There's a steep learning curve in emergency management. There's a lot of acronyms. Again, we talked about that earlier. They told me that I needed to go to the EOC, the county EOC or ECC, to have a meeting. And there we talked about EMPG grants, SHSP grants. They talked about DPS. They talked about, used acronyms for the whole thing. And it was a complete different language for me. And I didn't understand what they were talking about. Baseball is really similar. To Jeff, if I do this, he knows what I'm talking about. He knows what he's going to do when he goes up to bat.
Definitely I'm not stealing, you can tell.
Dealing with injuries and position change. Again, in emergency management, I learned that it's necessary to be fluid and to be flexible. We might need to change some of the processes or procedures. And I know it was talked about again, but every situation, every disaster is going to be a little bit different, and it's things that we learn from. The same thing in baseball. It's dealing with the injuries and position changes. One thing that's really important is play within your boundaries. In baseball, you've got boundaries on the field. These yellow marks are considered your boundaries. Infield, if you hit a ball outfield, it's going to be a foul. Emergency management is similar. We've got to play within your finances. So this line right here represents your finances or any legal restraints. This line represents your budget or process and procedures. So again, it's important to play within your boundaries. Those are really a lot of similarities when it comes to baseball and emergency management. I'm going to turn the time over to Jeff, and we're going to get going on playing a baseball game.
All right. So, first responders. Who's out in the field? Every day, day after day. Policeman. Where's my policeman? Police department. Come on up. All right. Who else is out there? Fire department. Come on up. All right. It looks like we have our pitcher and our catcher. You guys can decide which one's doing that. All right. Where's the earthquake? I need an earthquake. I need a big earthquake.
That's got to be Jared Smith. I don't know if you guys know Jared. He does risk management. The reason why we want him to be the earthquake is because if something happens, there's any liability here. Jared, why don't you come up? Who's got earthquake? Joaquin's got earthquake. Come on up,
Joaquin's got the earthquake. Oh, Jared, you dished that off, didn't you? Oh, my goodness. Hey. Dynamite comes in
He
little
doesn't want to be
packages.
sued.
So, because we have some risk guys in here, we're going to tone it down. We're not going to use real stuff. We were actually going to go on the baseball field over there, but we kind of got rained out. So, you got the big stick. Who's pitching and who's catching? Don't hit him. I didn't know he had to get undressed here. All right. Oh, he's getting serious.
Now, Joaquin, don't go crazy.
Swing away. Oh, you want to give him some signs? Or, yeah, we got that a little close.
Sure. Right?
Okay, that must have been a little trimmer.
We've got time to prepare. We're preparing for a major earthquake.
Okay, so that was, see, just like always, fire and police, they're taking care of business. They were able to handle that one.
That's the day-to-day.
That was the outside pitch there. All right, okay, so there we go. Now, my big question for you guys, you start running. Run, you run. Okay, so you got a little help there, didn't you? Who would you call? Who would you call? You're on the field, the earthquake hits. Who are police and fire going to call first? The EOC? The EOC hasn't stood up yet. Emergency manager, what? Really, who are you guys going to call? Dispatch, where's dispatch at?
Back
Who's
out
got
there.
dispatch? Back, 911, Salt Lake 911, does somebody have that one?
I know I passed it out. No?
He left, he had to go to the restroom, right?
Okay, but they're in the field. We just called them out. They're in the field.
All right, so yeah, so we can just call that dispatch and like you're out in the field. What, did I miss something? He's stealing bases. That trimmer's just moving. Who else are you gonna call? Who's dispatch gonna call? Who's dispatch gonna call? No, you're already there. More of you guys, right? Well, you guys are representing police and fire. So who else is who are we calling next? The trimmer's gonna, the earthquake's gonna score. We need to get somebody on the field.
Having aftershocks.
Okay, an ambulance. We got EMS. Where's EMS? EMS, come on out. Who else are we calling?
The red cards are the ones we're looking at.
Who's dispatch going? Where's dispatch at? You're killing me, dispatch.
There's dispatch.
Dispatch, who are you calling? We already got police and fire on the field. Yeah, and we got an EMS out there. Oh, UDOT, where are you at? No, somebody's got it. I think somebody's got a UDOT card.
Anybody got a UDOT card?
Everybody take a look at your cards, please.
That's what they're for.
Everyone read your card, know what you have.
There should be a UDOT card out there. Okay, we got UDOT on the field somewhere. Who else are we calling?
It's participation, jump up.
Yeah, the red ones. Yeah. Who's the flood? Who's got flood? What are some of the byproducts of the earthquake? Come on up, flood. You're up. Who we call? Who's next? No, go ahead and play. Who else are we calling? Oh, there you go. There's a rope. That flood was devastating. Oh, that flood was devastating. Who are we calling? Who's next? Who are you going to call dispatch? Do we got an EOC out there yet? EOC, where are you at? Call VIPs. We get okay, Volunteers and Police Service, VIPs. Who else can we call? Who else can we get on this field? Public Utilities, Public Works. Are you guys out there? Get on the field. Come on and get on the field. All right. I need another disaster. Who's the disaster? Come on up. Come swing the bat. What do we got? Communications are down. Now what are we gonna do? Who are we calling? Well, nobody, because communications are down, right? Who are we getting a hold of? Don't hit my police officer. Oh, you should just let that thing rip. Who else are we calling out? Who do we need? Oh, baby! There you go. Man, the disasters are killing you guys. We need more people. We need more people. The disasters are taking over here. Who else do we got out there?
Need help?
Come on, get on the field. Get on the field. Oh, come on, get up here. You're on deck. If you are a disaster, get up here on the. Oh man, so that now we got it now.
That's the help.
If you're a disaster, come on up here. Who else do we need to get on the field? Who's got a red card? Come on out. Get on the field. Who are you? If you got a red card, start moving you towards the field. You're up. Who are the disasters? Disasters, get up here. Disasters, come on up.
Disasters are the gray cards. Look at your card. If you got a gray one, we need you up here.
We need a hitter. Come on. We need another disaster. Come on up. If you got a gray card, come on up.
You got a red card. Raise your hand if you got a red card and you're sitting down.
We got a switch hitter here. I'll take that on the bounce.
Oh.
Drive it right back through. All right, who's next? Another disaster. Come on up and hit. Come on up and hit. Are there any more red cards out there?
Any red cards that are
Don't
sitting?
stand by each other. Kind of spread out a little bit because we're trying to get these guys out. I think we got 2 outs, right? We got 2 outs here. All right. Keep it between the lines. Here we go. What disaster is this? Oh, this is a sewage backup. That's really bad. Oh, there you go.
Home run.
All right. Another disaster. Do we got another disaster coming up? Oh, here we go. More disasters. We need one more out. I figure if we put enough people on there, we'd be able to do this real easy.
Well,
Now you know we are disaster managers, right? So redundancy is king.
so we talked about having the right tools as well. What if we give the next person this? Is that going to do the job?
Well, here. Who's up next? And put that ball. Let me see that ball.
Hey, here it is. Having the right tools.
This is all about right tools. I thought she was going to rope that thing. It's kind of like racquetball when I play. I spend more time chasing the ball than I do playing racquetball. Well, that's 2 strikes, right? That was 3 strikes. That's 3 outs, right? All right, let's try the bigger bat. See if we get a better tool. Oh yeah, makes a difference. Makes a difference.
Has anybody else got a gray one? Who's a Astor.
You got the bigger ball. I think that was a foul tip. Well, this is just an example of the right tools, like Aaron was talking about. We need to have the right tools in our. No.
Now let me ask you this, Jared. If you would have had a different tool than what you had there, if you would have had that real bat, would it have gone a little further? That's right. So having the right resources, the right tools are extremely important in everything we do.
So one of the things that we were able to do here, what we were trying to do is get more people on the field. You know, normally in a baseball game you get 9, right? But we were able to get a whole lot more people on the field. And by more people on the field, we were able to stop the ball a lot more effectively. Unless somebody cranks one out to the ceiling. That was kind of tough.
Good job. Way to go, slugger.
Now, how many, while you were out there on the field, how many of you introduced yourself to your teammate? Did anybody do that? Oh, yeah, wait, so maybe somebody back there did. Okay, great. You know, like Jared said, it's really important that we know who one another are. Now, I look around the room and I know a lot of you, but there's some people that I don't know. So come see me afterwards so I can meet you. How's that? We talked about communication and the signs, and Aaron was giving me some little thing like that. You know, if any baseball lovers here, you love to watch baseball? What do you like about baseball? The hot dogs? We'll talk about that in just a second. It's unpredictable. Strategy, okay? Different situations every time the ball's pitched, right? Emergency management, is it any different? You don't know what disaster's coming. When a disaster hits, we had a little communication problem there, didn't we? Hey, who's the vet guy? Did the vet guy ever show up? No? Okay. So so our communications went down right off the bat. We were in trouble. Aaron talked about terminology. I'm a volunteer for the Red Cross, and they were gracious enough to send me down to, there we go, little props there for you. They were gracious enough to send me down to Hurricane Harvey. And I get down there, and I was assigned to Fort Bend County, to their emergency operations center. It was just south of Houston. And so we were right outside the ring of water. We were outside the moat there. And I walked into this emergency management office, and of course, I'm brand new to Red Cross, so when I'm in processing, I have no idea what they're talking to me about. And then I go to Fort Bend, and this county has their own terminology, and they're all from Texas too, so that didn't help. And sorry, any Texans in here? I don't mean to bag on you. No, I just had trouble following. But my wife watches British TV, and I can't understand that either, so that might have something to do with it. But baseball signs, if you watch the game, it's kind of a game within the game. Aaron talked about getting into shape. Who's going to play where? And we really didn't direct that out here. We kind of, except for the pitcher-catcher thing. Everybody else, you kind of just went out and stood where you wanted to stand. If we'd have done better with our resources, we'd have directed you where we needed you to be. We talked about the right tools for the job. Being able to, I mean, seriously? You did a good job with it, though. At least you hit the ball. Did you have that resource list that you want to talk about?
I have a resource list up here. I think in the interest of time, and I don't know if I have enough copies, but I'll pass these out real quick. We were going to run through them and talk about some of the resources that we have, some of the resources that are available, and if you know how to use them, and if you understand them. So there's a checklist off to the right-hand side. We're going to go through that. I think it's important to know what your resources are as an emergency manager, but also as a city as a whole. So take a look at this list. I'll start passing some around. Take a look at it, and when you get time, go through it and see if there's anything that I'm missing, and add that to your list. And anything that you're unfamiliar with, become familiar with it. Know how to do it. Know how to know what capabilities there are, and just get to understand what resources you have.
So when we talk about communications, we're all pretty familiar. Who's not going to use their cell phone if it works during a disaster? And everybody's going to use their cell phone, right? We're going to have problems there. We've got radios. We've got the ham radio guys, the Aries and the Races guys. We've got all those things. I was reading an article the other day about a new form of communications technology, and they are light posts in your city. I don't know, did anybody see that article? So there's a company that's developed a light post that will do a number of different things. It will, if there's a flood, it'll tell you how deep the flood is on the light post. It provides two-way communication, so you can talk to the light post to get to whoever you're trying to get to. It has signage, so if you need to post anything about the disaster, or if you just need to post street information, detour information, evacuation type stuff, it's pretty cool. There was no price tag on it, of course, but that's emerging technology that, who knows, somebody may look into soon. As we were adding players, one of the things that we need to remember is the relationships with our different jurisdictions, with different organizations, our business partners, our VOADs, whatnot, so that we know what they will provide for us and what we'll do for them, so we can get them out there. Having those memorandums of understanding are huge. Let's see. One of the things that we started out with, we had we kind of had a little bit of an ICS process going here. We had police and fire on the field, and then we started expanding as we needed help. And as the different disasters came up to hit, we were adding people. And just like the ICS system, we can add, we can subtract to meet the needs of what's going on. And I know this is all real basic stuff, right? Everybody knows that? That's great. I love it. Because it's nice to get back to campus once in a while. One of the big things is flexibility. I was in the Air Force, and we always said that flexibility is the key to air power. Well, I find it is also in emergency management, and being able to know what to do, drop your plan, and go do something else if it's not working, to be able to make things happen. Rather than use a baseball analogy, I want to use an analogy for college football. Anybody watch the national championship the other night? I'm sorry that Alabama won. Really sorry about that. But that quarterback that came in the second half and lit it up for Alabama, my hat's off to him. He did a great job, and they won that game because of him. The Coach Saban, he says, you know what, Jalen Hurts, you're out, new guy, you're in. Put in a true freshman, and he won the game. So being flexible like that in a sports situation is the same as what we do here. One of the things that, those of you that watch baseball, the power of the pitch is pitching wins games. No doubt about it. Well, pitching wins the games. And I can't really say any more about that. But you need to think about, what is your pitch? What do you do back at your office every day? And when you go out and you meet people, not necessarily this group, because we all know what one another does, but when you're out and people ask you, what do you do? Do you have it memorized? You know exactly what you do? It's right off the top of your head. You can talk about your program. You can talk about it quickly. You can talk about it succinctly. And most importantly, can you make it interesting? And do you have passion when you talk about it? That helps your program go a long way, especially for people that don't understand what you do.
Especially if you're running the fish, it's not your job. Yeah, it's important to pitch emergency management to your local leaders, your elected officials, so they know what you're doing and they recognize the importance of having you there. And we talked about this in the previous session, providing funding for what you do and support. It's important to make that pitch to those types of people as well.
How many of you think of yourself as a customer service organization or department? You know, we provide a service to our residents, to the county, to the state, wherever we might be. We want them to have a good experience. Now, whether we can affect that well or not, just like in baseball, is going to watch the game, is that always why people go to the game? Or do they go for the experience? We talked about hot dogs earlier. You know, you want to go get a good hot dog. You know, there's a number of different things that you want to do while you're there. You enjoy the atmosphere. You enjoy the accessibility that you have once in a while with players, with being able to get right up close to the game. But can you do that? What do you have to deliver? You need to think about that. What does your program have to deliver for your constituents? And do you follow up? I get calls all the time. Sometimes silly things, you know. I have a water main break. Why are you calling me? I'm the emergency manager, and I don't deal with those. But I don't say that to them, of course. But I call the water folks and say, hey, did you guys know about this? And they, half the time, you know, they get right on it and they take care of it. And then I follow up and I say, hey, did they come out and fix it? You know, that's gone a long way for me. I've actually been able to get people to come to my meetings because of that. But they appreciate that. One another thing is people remember. They remember everything. Who are the baseball fans in here? Who was the third baseman for the Phillies back in 1927? Nobody? I don't know that either, I'm just kidding. But there are true baseball fans that know those kinds of things. You know, they know statistics, they know batting average and everything, and they remember that stuff. Well, the people that live in your community, they remember things as well. They're going to remember your presentations. They're going to remember the training that you offered. They're going to remember any of the inclusion that you have for them and involving them in your exercises and other things like that. And if you make that a good experience for them, they're going to be on board, and they're going to be part of your successful recovery plan. I don't know, do you have anything you want to say? I'm just kind of rambling on here.
No, I appreciate the fact that when you guys were up here batting, nobody got hurt. That was important. Did you? Well, don't report it.
You know, that happened in a World Series of the Yankees and the Pirates. The shortstop took one off the throat. The Pirates went on to win the game. Won the World Series that year. That was just a little side note.
No, when Jeff asked me if I would come help present, originally he told me, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's going to be the last presentation. So, and he said, you know, there's probably not going to be anybody here. And then he said we're going to go up against Mike Stellers, who did the last presentation. The room was completely filled. Again, I thought, you know what, there's not going to be any. So I only made like 20 copies of that resource list, so my apologies. And I'll send that out, or if you want a copy of that, let me know, and I'll be happy to email it to you.
So the biggest thing to remember in baseball, you watch the pitchers. I said, you know, said to you, pitching wins the game. Pitching will win the game. You might have a pitcher that'll go out and team will blow him out. You know, they'll shell him for like 10 runs. You know, he gets yanked and everything. But you know what? He gets to come back the next day. The score is 0-0, and he might turn around and throw a shutout and surprise everybody. Well, not necessarily surprise everybody, but have a great game. So every day is a new day, and we need to remember that as emergency managers. We too, you know, you may have done something weird the day before, but the next day is a new day. Hopefully they won't remember that. But in your programs, always be reviewing what's going good, what's going bad, and remember those things and apply them as you go on, as you and put the good things to work in the future. Keep a record of all that stuff. You guys want to play some more, or do you want to go home? Well, I'm just going to close then. Go home, look at your program, see what's working, hit a grand slam. You know, don't hit it up into the roof because we can't get the ball back. But hit it, and remember, remember these relationships. Turn to the people next to you that you don't know. Say, hey, introduce yourself. And that's how Aaron and I met, and that's how we're ended up doing this together.
And real quick, I know this is going to sound familiar to Nate. Nate's with Mill Creek. Our old city manager, John Geilman, went up to Mill Creek. He's now the city manager for Mill Creek. One of his, the lines, and one of the things he tells us all the time is play to win. So I'm going to say the same thing. We've got that posted all over our city. It's play to win.
Hey, thank you all. Thank you, especially those that participated. We appreciate it.